It took me 3 years to turn my home into an avocado bonsai forest. Throughout that time, I've attempted to grow and experiment with over 100 avocados that now each tell a story that I want to share with you so you can grow avocados at home successfully the first time. So if you want to grow the biggest berry there is, yeah, avocados are botanically classified as a berry, you've stopped at the right channel. Well, it all started with this avocado right here. I took it, removed the inner seed, and tried to peel the skin off, but it wouldn't come off. So I placed it in a cup of warm water for 1 hour and soon learned that the warm water helps the outer layer of skin slide right off. But if you do find that it's not working, just put it back in the water, wait another hour, and then you should be good. If you don't peel the skin off, this is what your avocado will end up looking like. So peeling the skin is a vital part of the process. But then I inserted 3 toothpicks into the sides of the avocado, a method not as easy as the one I later learned, and I'll tell you about that soon. And then I suspended the avocado seed in water, and the hardest part came, waiting for it to sprout. It took about 3 weeks for the avocado seed to crack open and for the little root to sprout out from the bum of the seed. The process of the tail actually growing out of the seed took a lot longer than I thought. For a while there, I wasn't even sure if it was gonna work, but patience was key here because it worked. Just make sure you change your water every 3 days to keep it free from any bacteria, but then you continue waiting. And throughout the 8 months that I waited for this thing to grow, I learned that once the plant grows 2 or 3 leaves, experts actually cut their avocado stems in half. I know, crazy, right? But they say it's because it helps the plant to branch out and promote stronger growth rather than having the plant grow up too tall. And if you know anything about this channel, we persevere, we fight, and we don't give up until we successfully grow fruits at home. So of course, I decided to try this theory out for myself. Like the true scientist I am, I sat in my chair, and the moment I honestly dreaded came, I was second guessing myself as to whether or not I was actually about to cut this thing. I waited almost 1 year for this thing to grow, but I figured, okay, we're not gonna know until we try, and I've cut it. I actually cut it in half. I'm crazy. But of course, I wasn't about to throw the stem out, so I added that back into the water to see if that would sprout as well. And it's actually you guys who told me that I cut the stem in half too far down the middle, so I was a bit nervous here. But finally, the days started to pass. And after mourning the loss of this avocado stem, I was really surprised to see the results. After only 3 days, the leaves on the stem I tried to save were dying, so I pulled those off and I thought, okay, let's see if the stem will sprout without any of the leaves. But the actual avocado stem that we cut was starting to morph into something truly amazing. And don't you know me already? In order to make sure that it actually worked, I grew 2 avocado plants alongside each other, but I only cut one, and I left the other one uncut to make sure we could see the results with our own eyes with something that we could compare it to, and I waited another 4 months. The new growth on the stem that we cut started to happen in full force, and it was looking fantastic. The stem, however, that I tried to save died. The one I pulled all those leaves off of. But you never know until you try. It's all trial and error. You should know that by now. Come on. But to my surprise, and upon comparing the 2 that we were growing alongside each other, it's safe to say that it was working. The leaves on the one that we cut looked almost porcelain, had a little bit of a darker color. The leaves were less brown than the other, and the actual stem seemed stronger too, with an overall strongular vascular plant stem and root system. Not only did it help the plant to branch out more, but it also grew back very fast and the leaves were so pretty. The plant that we did not cut, however, seemed to have weaker leaves. The foliage was wilting and browning a little bit, and it wasn't branching out as quickly as the one that we cut, although it had more leaves. I had many avocados growing with these ones because we needed a forest in our home, don't you know? So 5 more months passed, and I made sure to pick off the brown leaves and cut off the brown parts of the actual leaves off of the one that we didn't cut. So as you can imagine, I was very pleased to find out that this theory was in fact confirmed, and that experts were right in saying that cutting the stem off of your avocado plant will help promote growth and strength. I thought this was pretty fascinating, and I took this and I didn't just stop at experimenting with the stem by cutting it. I wanted to see if I could morph this baby into a bonsai tree, and since the one we cut in half grew 2 stems, we had a lot to work with. I didn't want a regular avocado forest, forest, I wanted an avocado bonsai forest in my home. You can see though, the point where we cut the stem, and that was pretty cool. I figured I'd just twist the two stems together and wait to see what happens, but 100% worth it. The young shoots are very bendable, and as the plant starts to age, the twists and turns will start to solidify and turn woody, and you won't be able to undo it later on. Well, I left this to do its thing and grow, and as it did, I continued to morph it into more of a bonsai tree as it grew. And along the way, I learned a really cool fact that indigenous people historically used marker trees for navigation. They would choose a tree and shape it, kind of like just how we did with our avocado tree, and that shape would point towards a significant landmark. In a park near where I live, there are actually 3 marker trees along the trail, and they are really cool. But as I waited, I realized all of these cool things that you could do with avocado trees, but I realized in order to actually grow avocados, it will likely take up to 13 years, especially if you're growing from seed. But I wanted it to happen faster, and I was determined as heckin' to make that dream into a reality. So me and my drive to never back down, I also found out about these really big and fat avocados. But I had never tried them before, and apparently they are very creamy, so naturally I had to try it. I got my hands on one, and as soon as I opened it, I realized that there was no way that I was throwing this seed out, and that maybe I could grow it in a way that would yield fruit in like 2 years versus the 13 that it normally takes. Plus, I wanted an endless amount of bonsai trees, so I got to work. I was so excited to open this juicy, creamy avocado from the DR, but I opened it up to reveal that it didn't look as good as I had hoped. But that's okay, because this technically wasn't for eating, it was for growing, and the seed was bigger than my whole hand, so you already know the drill. We got to work. I washed it, dried it, peeled off the seed's outer layer of skin, and placed it on a piece of saran wrap that I spritzed religiously every 3 days with water. It's like a child. Usually I use a glass jar and toothpicks, but this time I wanted to see if the avocado seed would grow in the saran wrap better than in water straight away. And I think I was right, because soon this baby avocado started to grow a baby tail. But since it takes so long for the seed to sprout out, a little tail in between its little bum, I actually ended up forgetting about this thing for a few months, and this is what it ended up looking like. So I had to figure out a way to get it in water without breaking all the roots, but luckily it was a success, and before I knew it, it shot up and grew into a baby plant. And as it grew, at this point in time, it was all still a constant learning process. And I actually learned that you need 2 avocado plants growing together in order to actually yield fruit. But some of you also tried to convince me that you can't in fact grow avocados true to seed. So even if we grow the 2 plants alongside each other, no avocados will grow, or some pretty warped ones will. Well, either way, I was okay with some warped avocados, and I was not giving up here. I couldn't believe that until I saw it with my own eyes too. So, of course, I ended up getting a little obsession with avocados, okay? I'm sorry. I just wanted to wake up from my slumber and look at the beautiful, darn well avocado bonsai trees filling up my home. Well, at that point in time, I had this bag of avocados that I forgot about, and they ended up going bad, and I thought back to the thing that I learned about needing 2 avocado plants to actually yield fruit. So I thought, you know what? Instead of throwing these in the garbage, let's increase our chances of successfully growing our own baby avocados at home and get to work with this moldy bag of avocados. So you already know what I had to do. I started opening up all of these avocados to remove the seeds. Some looked okay for eating, and you already know we made some mean guacamole with those, and others looked pretty gnarly, ready for the trash. But after I successfully got all the seeds out, it was time to give them a nice little bath. I washed them, I dried them. It took me a couple of hours to peel that outer layer of skin off of the seeds, and my hands even turned orange because I didn't soak them first. I got a little lazy. I wanted this process to happen really quick, so clearly I wasn't willing to wait an hour for these to soak in water. Evidence. But then I got each seed on a piece of damp saran wrap, placed those in a bag, and the hardest part came yet again, waiting for them to sprout. But soon they started to grow, and if I'm frank, these things were so cute! I think we increased our chances in actually yielding fruit here because the progress was amazeballs! Although a few of them did turn brown and die, most of them had a successful survival rate and started to turn out a little something like this. So it's safe to say that you should try this with many if you're trying this at home, because some will survive, some won't. It's basically all trial and error, but you already know that. And then I decided it was time to bonsai experiment again since we had so many of these. I took the ones that had sprouted a few leaves and started shaping them up. This one looked like it had a little wiggle room to add some more warpedness, and that was definitely a good idea. The root systems were looking amazing, and I was just overall pumped. I just kept on growing avocados and kept on shaping them into these bonsai trees that all now are looking so good. But as I shaped one of the last bonsai trees from this avocado bag, my avocado obsession made me realize that I never even made guacamole. Wow! But I do have a secret recipe that you guys will love. And of course, I grew the seed from this beautiful avocado, don't even worry. But I scooped the meat out, added it to a bowl, and then added some garlic, some lime, some olive oil, some salt, my favorite ingredients. And then I actually have a secret ingredient that I like to add, don't tell anyone, but it's a little dash of Caesar dressing. I know some friends who like to use a little bit of mayo instead of Caesar, but it adds an extra kick that you never knew your guacamole needed. It gives it a light, creamy texture, and it's such a beautiful addition to the best appetizer there is. Unless you're allergic, then that would suck. Anywho, go make this recipe for your snack right now. And by the way, the second last thing that I learned along this journey is the fact that you can apparently freeze your avocados right before they go bad, and when you take them out and let them thaw out, they are good as new. Well, I was skeptical, so of course I tried it so you don't have to. And since I had some avocados that were about to go bad sitting on my counter, it seemed like a good idea. And let me tell you, well, I had this avocado in the freezer for about 4 weeks, and when I took it out and opened it, it looked pretty green. And as I went to fully cut it open, it was still a bit frozen, so I let it thaw out a bit. But then the ultimate truth was the taste test. Well, the results are that it tasted okay. It didn't necessarily taste like a fresh one, and after about an hour of sitting out on the counter, the whole thing seemed to turn a little bit brown, so if you're doing this, you probably should eat it right away. It is a good idea for food preservation. But if you can get your hands on fresh avocados, do that instead. It was worth it though, because I made sushi hand rolls, and I learned the different ways that we can store and preserve our food so that they don't go to waste. And the fact that we can actually contribute to a more sustainable and green environment around us through the foods we eat, store, and dispose of. Just never forget to grow the seeds. The last thing that I wanted to tell you is that this is actually what an avocado plant sounds like. It's so cool to see that if you put electrodes on your plants, it can detect electric signals that can provide information about the activity and behavior of your plants. Here, I was using a device that amplifies the electric signals and converts them into sound. Sick. Anywho, well, it definitely is safe to say that now every time I eat an avocado, I married the idea of never ever throwing the seeds away. And this one choice has honestly made my home so beautiful and so green. It's basically raining avocado trees in my apartment, and I absolutely love it. I give them away as gifts, I morph them into bonsai trees, and I doubt I'll ever stop growing them till the day Anywho, what felt like hundreds of avocados and a 3-year journey and a beautiful forest now in my home. At the end of the day, the moral of the story is that you're stuck with me for 13 years to see if we actually grow the avocados or not. But we have so many trees now, so I'm confident that one of them will get pollinated and sprout avocados sooner rather than later. They're all starting to turn woody, and if we're lucky, soon the avocado tree will grow into this, and then into this. Hopefully the leaves will be less brown than this one. Well, as you know, on this channel, we take the seeds from inside exotic fruits and grow them into full-blown houseplants that fruit. This week was a wild ride. Thank you so much for watching. Without you, it would not be possible for me to make these videos. I love you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, follow, subscribe. Remember that
I love you.
And I'll see you next week.